some of that was draft related. The Black Shield is definitely going to be trained upon one of Pawn and Deft, you would imagine, but you hit your timings, Black Cleavers, and play the Ruin Kings, you can definitely hit the ground running in the mid-game. However, the enemy team is pretty similar when it comes to top side. It's Lysandra Jace again. It's another pretty early ganking jungler in the Jarvan. So to me, this game is very much about who has the superior early game rather than some of the outscale options available for Kingzone in game number 1. You still look at Ornn and quiver in fear because of the fact that Jace doesn't really have a role in 5v5s like Ornn's, just bread and butter. But my first read is early game even more important in game number 2.
Definitely going to be a fun one. We'll see if Pawn can go from the Corki against Lysandra and just farming up and doing kind of an auto attack AD carry impression into just a straight up caster and having the twitch fingers to get the Black Shield down onto whoever's going to be engaged upon Pawn, picking up the MVP from game number 1. Will have to have another stellar performance here in game 2 to carry his team to the victory. And speaking of which, it looks like we're ready to hop onto the Rift right now. So Kingzone up against Griffin, game 2. Let's do it.
생성까지 30초 남았습니다.
Here we are back on the Rift. As some of you, if you're just joining now, may be surprised to see Kingzone up 1-0 up against Griffin, but Griffin may be taking their game for advantage. Their early game was fantastic, but then one team fight later, all of a sudden they're like, oh wait, they got Baron? What happened? And Kingzone, props to them, really did a fantastic job to come back in that one. So now they're only one game away from taking out the team that is already in the finals here for LCK Spring 2019. We're going to take a look at some of the runes once again on our massive page of runes.
And here's an interesting one. Ingenious Hunter actually is in the secondary domination in Genius Hunter for Zhonya's Hourglass CDR, perhaps other items as well, like Protobell up there. Is the Glacial Augment as the main rune on the Morgana. Makes a lot of sense, even more utility. Otherwise, it's binding and ult only, but a lot of different slows. So GOP, Zhonya's, Twin Shadows, these could all be items that the Morgana will be looking to abuse with her Keystone. And it's another mid-game choice because Glacial Augment is usually the price of damage for utility in this mid-game.
Exactly. I'm glad you got to the other items as well, because you just stack up all the active items on this Glacial Augment Morgana. It gets pretty intense, so definitely by far the best Hunter rune to go for.
And also too tricky for me, the chances of fat fingering an active is super high.
So
you have lots of them, yeah.
In the wrong position.
You're like, I'm going to catch them with my oh,
yeah.
That's not the one.
Definitely does happen. I was playing it a bit with GLP instead of Twin Shadowing a couple of times.
And those are very different things.
Yeah.
It's almost like you spilled your water somewhere.
Kind of does feel that way, actually. Oh, I dropped my GLP all over the place. Like, sounds like a Twitch chat copy pasta.
Well, we're all about Twitch chat copy pastas when we can. It is a champion that if you think about the 1v1 matchup, rather than just Black Shield onto Lucian and watching him relentlessly pursue aggressively, is going to be pretty able to take teleport into a Lysandra matchup, and, unless the Black Shield is baited, be able to be just fine, right? The ability to walk away against the Lysandra in particular is very good.
Yeah, it's definitely a feels-good lane. Shouldn't get behind or anything like that in the mid lane, and it's exactly what you want out of Pawn. This time around, Deft not going up against Vayne. He's going to have that advantageous Lucian versus Ezreal kind of battle down at the bottom side. So more carry potential for him to potentially get some more MVP points. We talked about that race before, Chovy versus Deft, the two of them going head-to-head in this game.
It's a big shout out to Kingzone. I'm sure if you go back and listen to game number 1, I was counting them out, as you know. And the reason for that was just how strong at the time the early power spike comp was on the side of Griffin, and how many avenues they had to a victory, and what seemed like Kingzone shouldn't have it. And that sounds like very strong logic. Sorry, very strong language, especially given that Griffin lost that game But the main reason for that was the ways in which KingZone were able to win that game were to largely make it about 5v5s. But all the champions on the side of Griffin were able to roam around, and specifically with Jace's pressure, just punish and rotate around the Ornn and the One and get big leads. It should never have been about 5v5 fight into Baron, but the gold lead, like we noticed, was only around the 3,000 gold point. And if that pick happened at 17 minutes and there's no Baron, there can be no huge reintroduction for the top side of the map from KingZone. The way it did come together really played into the hands of KingZone, and big credit to them. For them to stick around, for them to have the strong mental to shrug off what was an abjectly poor top side of the map first 15 minutes is, to me, not what we saw in Kesper Cup, not what we saw in the early part of the season. There's trust in 5 members on the side of KingZone, not just can Deft carry us over the line.
Yeah, I mean, you get into a lot of discussions towards the end of every split, and you think to yourself, you know, which team was the one that grew the most over the course, and which team was the one that perhaps fell the most? Well, definitely does seem like the easy victor for most growth in the team over a split is KingZone, especially based on our expectations for them coming into this.
And if you think it's kind of a surreal thing to say, because Sandbox is likely to end higher than them, and yet the promoted team that we knew almost nothing about was already good at the start and has largely maintained their spot, whereas KingZone, names like Deft and TusiN, grew as a 5, and Deft and TusiN have actually been able to take a step back. They're still, of course, so important for this team. One of the most interesting stats separating the two teams is damage percentage for 80 carries. Damage percentage for Viper is 26.7%. That's actually pretty low for an 80 carry, especially in the context of Deft, who's #1 in the LCK and #2 of any player in the world, behind Power of Evil, who is 35.4%. Deft is at 35.1%, 0.5% ahead of Ruler, the ultimate 1v9 player.
That's pretty insane. I mean, really nice stat to bring up as well. It really does highlight just how much Deft has carried in a way and built the team around him and got that confidence going. Speaking of which, the top lane we were looking for, the knock-up into the double knock-up, the knock-back there from Jace, not nearly enough. They're going to see Tarzan coming in with that Tremor Sense, and that's just a clean first blood in the top lane.
You always assume you're fine if there's no Ignite taken by the Unsealed Spellbook. Instead, no backs happen, just all in under turret. The item lead is, of course, there for Rascal, because he gets to build items while they stay in lane, tank the turret expertly, and that's why Ornn plus a ganking jungler like first pick Rek'Sai can actually make the Jace be accountable in a lane. The buy was actually Bilgewater, but that wasn't available as this fight happened. Reliable CC targeted with the Unburrow into the Ornn Horn there. Beautifully done. And you can just hear there's no huge proclamations because that was just clean.
We got him. Nice. That's it. They knew what they were going for. Very nicely set up. No summoners used on either side. Actually, nobody blowing their flash into play, which is generally pretty uncommon. Or just not expecting that one. Nice job done. So, really good stuff. We were talking about Deft being the carry and sometimes the top side of the map here for KingZone being shaky, but they are able to convert into that one. And it's now Cuzz hitting level 6. Is going to clear out a bunch of vision around that Infernal Drake, which is going to be the first one of the game.
With Ornn being able, Ornn Horn, we mentioned already, the Jason Ezreal, but Karma also. They returned to Karma this game, which to me is pretty curious a choice from the side of Griffin. Yes, it's again very strong in lane, and you have a roaming support versus a laning support, Shen versus Karma, but the Karma is another person that just gets owned by the Ornn Horn every team fight, right? As a range support with not a lot of base stats behind her. And they've not been able to inject any meaningful CS lead in the laning phase. The moment Lucian was locked in first round, he knew that it was going to be very hard to put him far behind. So it feels like KingZone just winning with Shen support, which just sounds like winning the map and also winning the lane.
Certainly does feel good. We got TP advantage in the top side. Rascal could also We saw the damage he was doing solo one-on-one. Could even try to get on in there with Ignite, but he's got TP advantage for now. They have Shen, who's hit level 6 and could join in on fights. A lot of options here for Kingzone in the early game.
And I was poking your shoulder, Valdez, because I noticed something. What are we building here, Deft? Are we building Essence Reaver onto this Lucian? When you see the build items already of the Caulfield's Warhammer and also the pickaxe, that is your thought. I believe it's been built once before. I can't remember if that was LCK or not. I watch a lot of League of Legends around the world, so this might actually be a crit Lucian in a way that we haven't seen in a while. Black Cleaver will be an item choice for Cuzz, so maybe don't want to have the redundancy there as Kingzone turn onto the Infernal Drake, the first spawn of the game, and with their priority against a Karma lane, they take it as, all right, what's happening here?
Well, Rascal was running down, and he kind of got caught out by Tarzan with the red buff. Flashes into that one. No flash on Rascal, as he used it earlier, is going to pay the price. And, well, wasn't expecting to be caught off in the transition down, and they're just, I mean, Kingzone's still able to get the Infernal, which is quite nice, so they do get that big bonus, but I suppose not getting caught would have been better.
It's an unforced error. You understand why he's walking down, because he's got the Ornhorn. He's thinking maybe there'll be a team fight over the Infernal Drake, but he didn't have his wits around him and was turned off. Let's watch the vision situation here. The reason why Rascal will feel hard done by is, why is Tarzan on the top side when Infernal Drake's going down? It's one of those things where Tarzan just wasn't looking to contest this Infernal, so Rascal goes down, does draw the flash out of Tarzan, not out of sword. We'll see if they can return to this, because Rascal should eventually be able to swap the summoners and have another mobility summoner to try to escape further.
Cuzz here going for the essentially 10-minute Rift Herald, and well, they already got the Infernal, so that would be two massive objectives to take this early on in the game and just get them ahead. So it's gonna go down really, really quickly.
And this is so cool because if you look at the champions again, you say, wait, Lissandra, Jarvan, Jace have lost Infernal and the Rift Herald, when if we usually see a drop like this, we say, oh, how unlucky the enemy team is that with priority drops, you're able to not pick up, you know, these are things that should be pretty free for such a strong top side of the map. But I think Kingzone are just being really hot-handed in the early game here. They feel like the hot knife through butter in this early game, and they're just taking every opportunity before Griffin can really put everything together. Extra point and Black Shield showing that they want some extra guaranteed safety, maybe the ability to have enough magic damage to repel 2 spells rather than just have it easily popped into the further stuns. Mid lane, Chovy gonna back away.
See that he went for the Lehends, which was also highlighted to not go for any GLP Twin Shadows, none of the kind of synergy items that you do get with that Glacial Augment. I suppose you will be picking that up a little bit later. That's, okay, Cullen just coming on in. Tarzan is actually right in position on a control ward to try to get into that fight, but they do actually just back away.
We definitely don't always see complete slow item stacking when you go for the Twin Shadows. We've seen even just one slow item, like for example, Twin Shadows or GLP, rather than both on Vel'Koz, which was the other pretty common mid-lane Glacial Augment champion we've had in the past. I guess Sion is the boring version that doesn't build any of those items, but we did see Glacial Augment Sion and I guess Tahm Kench from time to time. So that'll be a later thing. On already has plenty of utility in his kit, and it's 5 points into Tormented Soil. I actually think it's called a different thing now. It's called Tormented something else. They changed the name on the W, but you at home get the idea. I'll look it up, but 5 points into W for a Morgana means push, push, push.
Push, push, and extra AP for your Black Shield that you're maxing second means that that thing's not getting popped, as you were highlighting before. Rift Herald gonna come in. Looks like all the gold will go the way of the Ornn, and Rascal is, he's a rich Ornn up in the top side, going piece for piece here for the Jason. Actually 600 gold ahead of the Jason, the top side.
And the scary thing is, 5v5 wise, we know this champion outscales, and he always has his stock picks, as Cuzz gets super aggressive here of the late game extra items.
Spike goes the way of Tarzan, as okay, ult is not going to actually get down, but Rascal trying to force this one pawn. coming on in with the TP, but they really were pushing this too hard. Here comes Chovy trying to get over the wall. Where is the angle of escape for Kingzone? It doesn't look like it exists. Ignite goes down on a Tarzan, but it's not gonna kill him. Doesn't look like here. On under the turret, one more auto will do it. He's gonna go down, and Rascal as well. Everybody gets baited in by Cuzz, and 3 people go down.
Cuzz baited by the priority topside, thought he could steal everything as Viper's falling low in the 1v2 bot lane after the Shenron came through. Griffin actually finding a huge amount of kills topside that didn't seem on the menu with how well the Ornn was doing topside, but the damage actually interrupting the burrow over the wall. And like you say, that was definitely a domino situation. It was set up for Kingzone, but suddenly 1 led to 2, led to 3. Kingzone do find a bot lane turret, and Cuzz, with his tail between his legs a little bit, will get the cloud trick.
Yeah, and with everybody just roaming up to the top side and Griffin trying to take advantage of the situation, at least Kingzone were able to respond with their own bottom turret here. So 1 for 1 in the turret, but take another look at how Cuzz just really was man-moding a little bit too hard this time.
Trying to sense, of course, saw Tarzan on the camp. He's got, I got Ornn here, I'll be fine. Ornn ult is up. But the damage interrupts the burrow through the tunnel. And then Rascal misses the stun on Tarzan, who intelligently parts to the middle of the brush there. And as we know, they follow on for further kills. Sword was actually really smart in the cleanup here. He never puts any damage into Rascal after this point. Watch how this play happens. He knows Rascal is dead, and he needs every auto attack to kill Pawn. Under turret, final auto will do it. If he had turned and done 1 single auto to Rascal, Pawn would have gotten out.
Very true. Saw that earlier on where they let a support live, you know, so on the cannon, and it kind of tilted me a little bit, but Sword knows what's good. He's able to get that kill down, and that makes this game very even in terms of gold. Of course, Kingzone do have the double 3 and the Ornn competition, so we'll have to see where the game does go from here, but definitely a nice little turnaround moment for Griffin.
This game is definitely in a really fine spot. Kingzone with the Ornn, even though they gave over those 3 kills to Griffin, they found quite a lot. Here we go.
Nice knockback to deny that one, but everybody's getting up in the top side 3-on-1. You can see Tarzan was thinking about getting up there, but decided no, my friend is already dead. And so just a nice gank comes in from Kingzone.
Yes, straight up kill. And Kingzone do have a team comp that, with the objective lead they already have, Griffin needs to stick the control wards you see bot side around the pressing objective again and again. Otherwise, if you come in late against Ornn, you just die, Valdez, if the deep vision is already down. Through the Ornn, they're going to pick up another turret, as we can see. So in spite of the Shen ultimate top side, they were able to pick up that bot lane turret, as we saw. They take the top lane turret as well. I feel like Kingzone is still in a really good spot as we start to emerge into the mid game.
And they certainly are, as the 2 mid laners gonna hop to the bot side. You can see even that Fawn with his item selection does do quite a nice amount of damage with that W up against the Lissandra, even if he only gets a couple of ticks on it. And I guess it's time to bully Sword again, say Kingzone. And well, there's the big one. He's moving over towards the right side. The Hunters waiting in the brush, but the ward does come down. And nobody will fight the dust here.
And we were talking about how it wasn't as clear if 10 people run at each other, who wins in game 2 compared to game number 1, where it was so clear that the Ornn would be the separator. However, let's not talk about just the 5v5 stake, because that's not the whole game, right? There's a lot of play around skirmishes and side lanes. Right now, Sword can't push forward and press in his lane, so Jace can't apply pressure. Meanwhile, Ornn is going fine in the lane and will be better in a team fight, so it feels like relatively, Jace is stunted and Ornn has kind of found his footing. That's a relevant thing. Ornn also going to dole out the items as the game goes on, and that injects 4,000 gold to his allies and 2,000 gold to his own inventory, so that's also a relevant point. So even if there isn't the same break points in other champions, the relative difference between Ornn and Jace might actually be teams continuing to see like this is going to be something a lot of teams are going to try to play forward, both in pro games and you would for sure say scrims, because we're seeing first round Orns into Jace, making the Jace look a lot more narrow win condition. It feels like we're in 2015 again, and will Jace split push or do they lose? Almost feels like something that flashes in your head 4 years later with such a different game.
It's definitely really cool to see the meta, you know, swirling around and always cycling, and having Ornn come back and being a massive decider and just game changer overall in this series. And you know that other teams are going to be watching this one and taking notes and really thinking about it. So like the return of this champion.
And you also have to kind of put on your thinking pants and think about, wait, it's 2-item Ezreal, but it's Triforce against Crypt build Lucian, and what that means when the teams start hitting each other, because these are big shifts in what the recent meta has been in terms of these two champions that have been played so many times.
And the knockup comes in into the taunt.
Damn.
There's no way
you're
going to be able to use your abilities even. So Kingzone once again, the Hunters in this game patch another member.
But this is Chovy being in the wrong spot. We noticed before Griffin had defensive vision around that area, and there was Kingzone vision topside. The Griffin vision was cleared out, and then Chovy was CC barred to death. He had no chance to self-ult. That means he loses out on the bot side as the objective happens. That's Griffin, like we talked about, being at an objective second when Kingzone had done all the hard work around setup, and it didn't take an Ornhorn to take down Griffin in that particular scenario. Griffin have way more work to do around objectives. Tremor Sense will spot them. The CC duration, once we get 5 points into the queue, on the binding will be insane. And it's just very standard dotting of I's, crossing of T's, and dead Chovies leading to free drinks.
Same thing there in the replay, just got him and nice, as you would expect. And, well, they're not going to be feeling too nice, though, about the double ocean that has come up onto the map, at least here, Papa.
I'm scared about kind of where you assumed LCK is at, because right now, Griffin are doing the simple things wrong. And the simple things were their bread and butter in the past. Griffin's making a lot of mistakes here, and they are auto-seeded into the final. Does this mean something, or is it a one-day thing? Griffin are already, as we know, guaranteed to be in that grand final, but a lot of the mistakes here are going to be extensive VOD reviews, and I'd hate to be around CVMax, who we know makes analogies to passing time bombs to people and Spartan warriors. It's going to be a fiery night in the Griffin house, whether they come back or not.
Yeah, I mean, Kingzone's a good team, but, you know, Griffin not only losing to Kingzone, but they go down to 10T and a freak earlier on, so you wonder if the winds of change are slowly moving against Griffin once again.
That'd be that's a crazy sentence, right? The winds of change was our 2018 summer storyline,
exactly,
when rookie lineup Griffin, upstart, made it to the grand final. Could it be that quick that the wheel turns again?
Be pretty exciting in terms of, you know, keeping things fresh, you know, but definitely does hold some interesting and perhaps sinister questions about, you know, the current state of teams here in the LCK. That binding not maxed, as it is still long, but not the 3 seconds just yet for the Morgana.
Give it time.
They'll get there. But not quite going to lock him down in time for TusiN to make his way up there and try to make a play.
So Kingzone actually have a way bigger gold lead than you would say when it comes to the 5v5. Part of that, like we mentioned, is the Ornn Jace discrepancy. Part of that is the 2,000 gold of Ornn upgrades that Rascal has. It's also the fact that they already had a 2,000 gold lead and an Infernal Drake for extra efficiency on their purchases. So through a lot of indirect and direct factors, I actually think Kingzone is very ahead at this point, and Griffin have been pretty poor at actually keeping vision down. They're going to need to be pretty honest around Baron, as Kingzone will start to make visits to that. And while their Baron speed, as Papa Smithy always likes to talk about, it's not great, their Baron turn with the Ornn, just as a single champion, is pretty good. If Morgana gets the flash in, if Shen gets the taunt flash, their Baron turn is getting up there.
And, you know, everybody could just pile in with that composition, and just the interesting item choice you were talking about before, the crit Lucian coming in for the Essence Reaver first, means that if he has any room in these fights, he's just going to be chunking people, double-shotting people for double crits. It's going to get pretty intense in those fights if KingZone start the fight on their turn.
And the cost is the Black Cleaver won't be as fast stacked because you'll have 2 of them, right? However, may you inspect the inventory and see 0 armor being purchased by Griffin and no real incentive to rush armor in a normal game against Lucian. I think you would try to just go away with, let's say, Ninja Tabis and be fine. Ninja Tabi's all they've got. And that means that if Cuzz starts the stacking, which Rek'Sai does very quickly onto 1 member, crit items are going to equally DPS down almost every member of Griffin and just blow people. This the Might of the Ruin King is done. So not the Might of the Ruin King, the upgraded Black Cleaver,
yeah,
whose name I forget. Do you know it by any chance?
No.
I know Molten Edge. I know Might of the Ruin King, which is such an awesome name.
Yeah, right? That's a good one.
The Frozen Fist is done. Hooray for Frozen Fist actually being
go.
the correct caster name.
Yeah.
For the Iceborne Gauntlet. I don't know the upgraded adaptive helm name either.
That's
Abyssal
also
Mask.
the Abyssal.
Names are hard, Valdez.
Deft does a lot of crit damage too. Viper has to be really careful, and you can see that there's really no recourse when you have a Black Shield on him too. Black Shield wasn't up there as he used it before, but didn't really need it, as Lehends basically just died, had to flash away just to survive. We'll take another Ocean Drake here and make a 5th one spawn. Means their Elder is going to be really intense once we do get to that point of the game.
My question to you, though, Valdez, is at this point, 25 minutes in, where there's been no teleport ganks from Lissandra, the Ezreal Karma went for CSCS in the bot lane, and now Shen Ultimates can be there to muddy the waters. Ornn's Engage advantage be there to muddy the waters. Can Griffin win this game without a Baron? It feels like they desperately need Baron to actually get value out of, say, Jace Ezreal, both in a let's group together and try to siege alone, and if we sidestep the Ornn, we can actually take down turrets, or just side lane push with Jace. Without the Baron buff, it feels like almost every other future possibility is pretty heavily to the advantage of KingZone. Kind of the opposite of the expectation in game number 1. Now, game 1 went surprising places. If everyone is playing at their maximum level here, I need to be convinced that Griffin can find a way back into game number 2.
I mean, even if they do have the Baron, you still have a lot of options for KingZone to go for that, you know, I wouldn't even call it a desperation fight. I'd call it a stand at their turrets, even. If Griffin are pushing in, they still have to be careful with the comp that they have chosen. So it's going to make things pretty hard, I'd say, for Griffin. Now down so much real gold and just overall other bonuses that you were mentioning before. So, excited to see if they could pull it off, right? They've pulled off miracles before, but now down a game against KingZone and down in game 2, it's not looking too good.
And does throw the standings into a bit of disrepute as well. If KingZone win 2-0, they'll be 13-5, plus 15 game score. That means that if SKT lose, things get tricky as mid lane.
Okay, get the knock up here onto Viper, and you can see immediate cleanse and flash. That was real clean from Viper to survive the taunt that did come out from TusiN. So, had that QSS ready, he was able to press the right buttons to make sure he stays alive.
Flash now down on Viper, traded for TusiN's flash. So a pick onto TusiN when he goes to try to clear wards. The possibility here is looking way more tricky. In previous time, Sword side lane pushing. Not often you see a Jace comp that hasn't been able to take down bot lane outer at 27 minutes, but finally they find both top lane and bot lane outer turret down. Vision control-wise, KingZone is still in the lead. It's so tricky, it's so hard when you have Karma support. Cleanse or no, she's so squishy that she can't be a Braum. Put up the Unbreakable and put down Advanced Vision. Your vision is very shallow if you're Griffin, and changing that probably needs a pick.
This game has kind of slowed down. Finally, KingZone did go for one pick, and well, speaking of which, nice. Actually catch there by Chovy to make sure that Cuzz could not get in range or make anything happen. I see you pointing at some Lucian items. Those look pretty nice, Papa.
So Lucian has a traditional 3-item carry build, could basically be a Sivir in this spot. We already talked about how that's different from expectation. Remember that with no engage support, it's Karma to poke around as Tarzan tries to contest vision, and we already mentioned that's tricky for Griffin. They need to take a lot of risks to do so. The only person to die evolution and stop a short-range AD carry from doing damage is a Morgana. Black Shield stopping Lissandra. There's no one else to go backline. That means Lucian should be free hitting. And speaking of free hitting, they're onto this Baron. It's at 7,000.
Already at half, and now Griffin know about it, but Tarzan is in range, is going to be able to get in, but no! Despite the Orn goes the way of Kingzone. Now they're looking for the engage, and Viper goes down to the Orn horn. See you later, he says, and in comes Cuzz. Gonna be able to assassinate Tarzan on the backside as 3 kills and maybe even more are gonna go the way of Kingzone after the Baron. The flash on in and the double kill to Cuzz gives Kingzone 4 kills and the Baron.
Kingzone are styling and cementing themselves as the dark horse for the LCK Gauntlet and thus LCK Spring 2019. They're styling on Griffin at this point. There's no way really for Griffin to stop this Baron push. We talked about Griffin with Baron against Baron. It's a whole nother conundrum.
This isn't solo queue where your entire team types /FF at the same exact time. Even Pawn's got the upgraded Zhonya's now as all the stats are going their way. It's insane how ahead they are at this point in the game.
Have we all been caught napping? Me in game number 1, and now suddenly the LCK world at large as the rise of Kingzone DragonX. We looked at the teams they'd beaten. Looking down the list of Damwon, Jin-air, Genji, KT, and Afrika, and you were struck by who wasn't there. But this was a smart play. It looks like it's close, but there's a huge level lead, 3 levels onto the top laner. They almost stopped Darvin getting into the pit, but even when he gets there, there's 150 more smite damage and they take it down. Suddenly, they're 8-1, and they have beaten Griffin along the way. That's a pretty big story for Kingzone, and one that will give them many fans. Previously Deft fans, now probably Kingzone fans. So much more confidence in the best of 5 phase.
Claps all around. And even double high fives to everybody. They got every combination going there as Sword nearly goes down on the backside. As Rascal just in the replay was just saying, yeah, everybody's so good. You guys are great at this game. It's all fantastic feels, high morale on the side of Kingzone. It's all high confidence. These guys are on a massive roll and should be able to take this one 2-0. Only team they lost to in round 2 was actually SKT. And I remember that was a bit of a stomp. So it makes things even more interesting for if Kingzone does face off against SKT in a playoff. Could they make it past them and then maybe even get to Griffin? But we'll have to end this game first as the knockup goes down on a Tarzan. Both Deft and Pawn do some insane damage at this point. Stop box on the side of Rascal, but he's so tanky, he's not going to go down anyway.
Kingzone continue to push. 5 Drakes, Baron, everything is on the side of Kingzone DragonX. They pull away, showing brief mercy, but only for half a second. Kingzone have basically full control of the entire map, and you're just not used to Lucian critting people with his double shot passive, and critting minions and monsters for even more.
This guy does unbelievable damage as taking a look at some of the items now they've picked up. Finally, Twin Shadows for the side of the Morgana picks up her first Glacial Augment item after all of that, so their pick potential going to get even more intense.
Add 6,000 gold with 6,000, 1,000 gold donations from Ornn. Add the Infernal Drake stats. The Baron has only now worn off. The lead is even bigger against the #1 team in Korea, who would be tripping up for the 3rd time in 5 series. Total damage dealt. You will see that Lissandra has done nothing this game, has never got the roam, has been kept in lane by Morgana.
You know, Lissandra, if they lose, is going to be 0-4 for the day. That's not really what you would expect from a Lissandra. She usually gets at least 1 win. This knockup goes on to Lehends, but take a look at Chovy on the backside. They are going to catch her going on in there. The knockup comes in and, just barely is able to get that ultimate off. Isn't going to matter, though. So many stasis effects. Keep her alive, but the knockup there was perfect from Rascal, and now everybody's getting into the pit as Deft is full health, and it looks like this should be Kingzone pushing on for their victory 2-0 against Griffin.
And Valdez, it's not about Griffin, it's all about Kingzone. Kingzone have just smashed Griffin, and it didn't matter who was on the enemy team with a performance like this. They're looking for the close here. With enough members, they should